What does it mean to love, or to hate, or feel jealous of another person? Can the rich ever be envious of the poor? Can the future ever feel jealousy of the past, or vice versa? Is it possible that the residents of the biblical garden might find something powerful or irresistible if faced with the industry and earthly fellowship of Babylon? Days of Heaven, the koan-like second feature by Terrence Malick and his last before a 20-year hiatus, was a fitting swan song to the director's perfect new Hollywood stint. Having taken the 1973 New York Film Festival by storm a few years previously with his masterpiece Badlands, one of the most fully realized of early 70s films, as well as an immediate shortlister for Best Debut of All Time, Badlands had beauty, weirdness, violence, depth, irony, and iconic performances by Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek, which they would both then parlay into greater new Hollywood iconography with their later roles Carrie and Captain Willard later in the decade. Days of Heaven, in many ways a subtler, less cynical and ironic, and yet somehow more distancing piece than its predecessor, was the product of over 2 years of post-production and shaping by the Maverick director. This, combined with the practicalities of making the film, such as the shooting schedule's prioritizing of the film's many gorgeous magic hour shots, caused the original cinematographer and camera operator to leave production early. The whole thing had been something of an ordeal for Malick, and despite the film's relative acclaim and its own Best Director win at Cannes, he was unable to get a project developed until The Thin Red Line in the 90s. To mark Days of Heaven as a turning point in this context almost seems too obvious an observation to make, but a turning point towards what and from where exactly for this director? Does Days of Heaven represent Malick at his most spiritual and mysterious, or his most human and quotidian? As with all questions both raised by and about the legendary auteur, their very nature defies answer. Welcome to Kael Your Idols, a new Hollywood podcast with your hosts Elena Gibson and Sam Ludwig. This film especially is very opaque in certain ways.
I'm going to start us off with a Pauline Kael quote.
Okay. Yeah,
That's
sure.
very fitting. Pauline Kael wrote, "What is unspoken in this picture weighs heavily on us, but we're not quite sure what it is. The film is an empty Christmas tree. You can hang all your dumb metaphors on it." And I just think that's an amazing line.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, point well taken. I have to say that this, Malick movies have a tendency to strike you in pretty different ways when you watch them at different points because they're so much about the experiential.
Yeah.
And I liked this movie less this time than the last time that I watched it. The first time that I watched it, I thought it was awesome. I watched it on a plane. And, so you have that whole high altitude kind of like classic, it's exactly the right kind of like ecstatic, sort of like way to receive the beauty of this kind of experience.
You're soaring above the earth.
Soaring above the earth, right. And just sort of like open to read emotions. See, I don't know if I think maybe it's something that's a feature of this movie is that it really defies metaphor. It has a lot of metaphor. It has some obvious metaphor, I would say. There's some things we can get into. But then, as far as like what it's really getting at, I find it very mysterious and very difficult to come up with a coherent thing that the movie feels like it's saying.
Yeah. Going back to the Pauline Kael thing, the review starts off with the sentence, something like, "Days in Heaven, a story about adulterers, is blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, to just describe Days of Heaven as being about adulterers, that's like, obviously, if you've seen Days of Heaven, you know that there is adultery in it, but that is not at all the first thing that comes to mind when I think of describing the movie, which is really just dives into what Malick is all about, that when you describe the movie, you don't start with the plot.
Well, but with this, if I were to try to describe Sissy Spacek's narration quality in Badlands, I think I could do that.
And in fact, I'll do that right now. It sort of like has this literary, unreliable narrator like quality to it, where it's obviously like a similar kind of effect as Days of Heaven, where it's like a prism that you're looking at the events through a sort of weird perspective. But I think it's like a little bit more overtly comic in Badlands and meant to point out the flatness and amorality of these terrible people. And in this, there's a sort of intentional flatness. Do you want to talk about like the narration, like how this narration idea came about for Days of Heaven, which wasn't part of the original plan?
He was editing the film and realized that he really didn't like any of the dialogue and cut it all out. And then it was kind of so hard to follow at that point without any dialogue. So he was really impressed with Linda Mance and called her in to do an unscripted, improvised narration. And they just had her like watch the movie and just like ramble and talk. And then they just pulled from that.
Yeah, I mean, and she just kind of made it up. And I would say that unlike Brando's Apocalypse Now ramblings, some of it's pretty cool. But what's interesting about it is that it does feel so separate from the movie. Like, it feels like she's in this different movie, and that she really is this weird filter that you're getting the movie through a dark mirror kind of thing.
The narration, it just seems like it's dancing around all these things. I mean, I guess, like, I'm just so torn about whether or not I think that it's profound or just pointless but happened to work together well.
See, I think it's pointing more towards what Malick does later with this kind of narration. It's making some kind of like weirdness-based commentary. In this, it really feels like somebody sort of scribbling, like messing up the picture to make it look cooler and less basic.
I think this is such a pivotal movie for his career, even though I definitely don't think it's among his better films.
Yeah, I think so.
Because he felt like he had to fix the movie in editing. And so others saw it, and I think he might have seen it too, as falling back onto a crutch he used before.
Yeah.
Which was the narration.
Totally.
And I think because it worked out so well, he realized, oh, I should intentionally do this.
Yeah.
In all my movies from now on.
That makes sense.
And then the rest of it is much more intentional, but this was kind of like the birth of him realizing that this is an actual style for him.
Yeah, I mean, Badlands was tightly scripted.
Yeah.
And, like, he came in... Like, Badlands, that's an amazingly fully realized debut. But also, another thing that I was thinking about... So, Badlands has those great performances, particularly Martin Sheen, going for it. And this, you got, you know... I mean, no offense, but it's like Richard Gere and Brooke Davis. I mean, you got Sam Shepard.
Brooke Adams,
sorry. Sam Shepard, who, you know, like, I could watch all the time, but I don't know, Richard Gere, I feel like I could see one of the Malick improv exercises with Richard Gere and Brooke Adams doing trust falls and stuff like that as being less compelling than certain kinds of places Martin Sheen could get to.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, okay, sorry to bring it back to the Kael review, but she found like Sam Shepard's performance to be really authentic seeming, but she felt like Richard Gere was so anachronistic.
He's pushing it, yeah.
And I agree. I mean, he is hot in it.
Yeah, for sure.
He's
very
super hot.
Everyone's hot in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, Sam Shepard. I was wondering, like, is he supposed to be unattractive in the movie? Because he's very attractive.
Let's talk... No, I think he's supposed to be attractive because she falls for him.
I know, but, like, it takes her so long to fall for him.
Well, she's got Richard Gere. I mean, you know, like, he's attractive, but you also got young Richard Gere there.
That's true.
Can we talk for a second about Sam Shepard?
Yeah.
Interesting casting.
Yeah.
Against type or with type? You know, famously, I mean, he's a person who I think he had a farm in real life. He was like a farmer.
Yeah, he grew up as a farmhand. He worked on a ranch as a teen, and he also briefly studied animal husbandry in college.
Yeah.
But then he dropped out because he got into, like, Samuel Beckett and jazz and abstract expressionism.
Yeah, and meeting Patti Smith on the street with steaks that she's stolen from the supermarket. Certainly not this gentleman farmer.
But the farmer, he's got this quality that most quiet men do where you assume that he's thinking interesting things. And usually, in my personal experience, those quiet guys are not thinking interesting things, but you do think that about the farmer. Or like maybe not interesting things, but perhaps profound truths that are simple but profound. And I feel like that is...
But that's every character in a Malick movie, is just awash in profound, simple truths about life and everything.
Sure,
like,
but
they
the
just
question...
shit it out.
But the question about whether or not that matches Sam Shepard, he's like a thinker, so...
Yes,
yeah.
it's very similar to his, of course, acclaimed Right Stuff performance kind of thing, the strong, silent figure who's sensitive but classically masculine in a way that's supposed to seem comforting, I guess. But I'm just trying to figure out, like, where do we start with the symbolism? Because there's so much symbolism.
I know. There's so much to talk about.
There is so much to talk about. We were wondering, so Gene Siskel has some quote where it's like, it defies criticism, like it's so difficult. But there actually is like a lot to talk about, and it's almost overwhelming in its simplicity. Because it's this infinite ball that you can just look into. But basically, like, a basic plot summary. Do you want to do it?
So Richard Gere plays a guy named Bill. They live in Chicago. He's got a sister. He's got a lover.
19 teens, just before World War I.
Yeah.
Starting.
Works in a factory, accidentally murders his boss. They go on the run.
They go from the city, the industrializing city, to the country.
Panhandle, Texas.
Panhandle, Texas. This movie is very cinematic in its execution, and you were meant to very much, I think, feel the going from the city to the country and the wide open space.
Just that shot of the train on the bridge. It is one of the most visually striking things I've ever seen in my entire life, specifically that train shot. But it is definitely like a bridge between two worlds, too.
Yes.
The city and the country.
There's a number of cinematic touchstones that this movie comes back to. So the magic hour is something that the shooting schedule really prioritized. Getting the magic hour is, of course, this less than an hour long period of time around twilight, dusk, where you get really beautiful natural lighting. This film utilized a lot of natural light, similar way to Kubrick's Barry Lyndon. I think they modeled it after Silent Movie. It kind of has some D.W. Griffith stuff going on in there. But so there's a lot of like people framed in silhouette. Especially when they're like workers or poor. And then there's a lot of like, you come more into focus and get more lit when you're getting wealthier. This film's definitely all about class, the pluses and minuses of being poor versus being rich, and the pluses and minuses of being worldly even if you don't have a lot, versus being very successful but within a sort of enclosed and isolated landscape.
Just so funny thinking of the landscape as enclosed and trapping you since it's so open.
Exactly, but the thing that they keep going back to with Sam Shepard's characters, he's set up his little table, his phonograph, his tea set out in the middle of a field. And there's nobody around. He has nobody. He has no friends.
Yeah, and just seeing his house just like in the field surrounded by nothing. It would be crazy. And it would feel like you were trapped by space. That would just be so profound. I feel like you would just really feel like the universe was so close to you, pressing in on you.
Right. I mean, so just continuing with the setup. So they are working for this farmer.
Yeah, and importantly,
yes,
Bill and his girlfriend Abby pretend they're brother and sister.
Yes.
Just so that there's no gossip about them. This is my biggest issue with the movie, and it's a stupid thing to take issue with because, like, it's a movie, so just, like, whatever, accept it. But, like, why not just lie and say they're married? There wouldn't be any gossip about it, Like, why did it, like...
Right, and I think that that's sort of important. That shows that there's a certain kind of, like this movie's also about freedom, like wanting to be free and not feel tied down. They're constantly running away from society or their own responsibilities. Richard Gere kills somebody in the beginning. In the end, the little sister, she's got to Huck Finn it and run away from the school. And I think the brother and sister thing has to do with something about Richard Gere not wanting to feel like he can't just light out.
They could have pretended to be married, but they could have just gotten married, which they didn't because, he must he must want, like you said, his freedom, and that could certainly be part of the reason why Abby falls for the farmer who loves her so much and just wants to be with her and wants to have a family with her and wants to give her everything. And although Bill, Richard Gere's character, clearly loves her too, he's not willing to do that for her.
Well, and in fact, he finds out that the farmer is dying, seemingly.
And he notices that the farmer has a crush on Abby.
And so in this scene, which definitely has a lot of Jesus imagery in it, where they're walking on the water and then he washes her feet in a sort of selfless way, but it's a kind of perverse selflessness because it's actually not selfless because it's self-interested. Richard Gere convinces her to get with the farmer and they become rich people. They get involved in the farmer's life.
After the farmer dies, before Bill dies, she talks about feeling really guilty.
Yeah.
And she says that she talks about it being her own fault, even though it's clearly Bill's fault.
Yes.
Because he pushed her into doing it.
Right.
She blames herself. She feels really guilty about it, and she says that she was, like, trying to do good afterwards.
I think there's something about her where she is disturbed by how much she finds that she likes being, like, a rich woman.
Or she gets to dance, like, she wanted to be a dancer, and you see her dancing a number of times in the house then after she marries him. So it's not like the rich culture pulling her in. It's just not having to be poor anymore.
I think that the movie wants to show you that there's some things that you have when you're rich and some things that you lose when you're rich and some things you have when you're poor and some things you lose when you're poor. So, like, what do you think are the benefits of being rich in this movie?
Well, I mean, like I said about, like, just not being poor. Like, I was thinking about the title, Days of Heaven, and we can talk about this. I think there's a number of different ways that you could look at the title.
Yeah. It's a quote from Deuteronomy. The film's plot is similar to the story in the biblical book of Ruth. The film's title was derived from Deuteronomy 11:21. Quote, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children in the land which the Lord swore unto your fathers to give them as the days of heaven upon the earth. So, whatever the hell that fucking means. So, sorry, what do you think the title means?
Well, this question about the afterlife, there is a point when Linda, during a narration, she said she was talking to somebody and this guy was telling her these things and he said, there's going to be creatures running every which way, some of them burned, half their wings burning, people are going to be screaming and hollering for help. See, the people that have been good, they're going to go to heaven and escape all that fire.
Yeah.
So that quote is presenting heaven as just an escape from hell. And it's like hell is poverty.
Yeah.
And then also like hell is like Chicago, like the city life. And they cross over to heaven with the wheat fields.
But then industry is encroaching on their heaven. It's kind of funny. When they first show them like working in the field, they're like, oh, yay, farm work. Oh, we'll put the wheat in the thing. Oh, you got it in there. Yeah. And it's like very like... The beautiful score that Enrico Morricone has a lot of shots of just beautiful peasant chic life. By the way, I was going to say really quick, as I say, like there's a lot of shots of like them in silhouetted against the horizon, you know, when they're a mass of workers. And then you sort of see their faces more and you get more clarity to their features and stuff. But then in the moment where the farmer sees them betray him, they're silhouetted.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they go back to being the poor people. They go back to being the anonymous sort of mass of just the betrayal, the creeping avarice in the doorway that's always just trying to steal your treasure.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Like, one of the scenes where he's, like, seeing them, catching them, but not quite, is, like, you see the silhouette of them through a shade, but it's, like, moving a little bit right in between their lips. You can't quite tell if they're kissing or just leaning in really close and talking. And so that's what I was thinking when I saw that, but that's a very interesting point.
You're right, it's in his head. It's obviously part of just how he's perceiving it. He's torturing himself. He's torturing himself maybe more than he needs to. There's almost this moment where it seems like maybe he is more bothered if they're not brother and sister, but they're having sex, than if they are. Like, he's more hurt if they're just a couple than if they're an incestuous brother and sister thing, in which he
of course it's more hurt, you know, because if they are
okay, go on.
Because if they are actually brother and sister, it's like, well,
but they have sex.
Yeah, it's like, of course she's not going to tell him that, because that's it's like a huge no-no, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be super embarrassing for her, and like that's a secret she's never going to tell anybody, and you'd like understand why your wife didn't tell you if you find out that your wife had an incestuous relationship with her brother. But but if they're not brother and sister and they're fucking, then that was like betrayal from the very beginning. And that is just like your run-of-the-mill betrayal. Yeah.
So you have this Jesus imagery with Richard Gere when he's setting them up, right? Where he's washing her feet and they're walking on water. Which I love thinking about the camera crew standing in the water and just like them having to deal with this, just like doing improv exercises and washing their feet and stuff, or whatever. But so you have that. And then you have the plagues being visited upon Sam Shepard. So what is that? What is that punishment for? It seems like that's something that he did wrong, right? He brought that upon himself. Is it just his foolishness? Like Sam Shepard is a victim, but he suffers this clearly biblical retribution.
But what if it's not him suffering it? What if it's Abby and Bill and he's just caught there? Abby and Bill are the ones who are set to enjoy all of this for a longer period of time because presumably he's still going to die. Although at a certain point in the movie you're like, oh, he's cured.
Yeah, right. He's not going to die. Or like you think maybe Bill misunderstood something. Like he was never going to die. Because he never got full confirmation of that.
Actually, I never considered that. I thought maybe the movie was saying, like, love healed him. Or just, when, like lonely people die faster?
Again, though, her narration just solves so much of this. What does she say? She's like, I guess the doctor must have given him some pills or something.
Oh, yeah.
it's such a great line. By the way, I just want to say something about this. So, as an actor, I would notice when you're doing a serious scene, and this is the thing that really reminds me of Ryan Gosling, it's just very easy to sort of slip into Chicago and like a New York kind of like accent. It's just so method actory. Like Ryan Gosling about this, like he had that sort of like squeaky Canadian accent, and so he like actively like tried to give himself like a cool voice, make himself sound like one of those iconic actors. If you just put that accent on it, if you have like an actor, especially like this like kind of streetwise like teenage girl, you can just activate them so easily. Yeah. They're just so punchy. Right. And they're just so, like, they just have so much energy with that accent.
Okay, I want to pause for a second and talk about that actress, Linda Mann.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed reading her wiki, although it was kind of sad. And she seems like an ideal person for this role. I don't know if you read her wiki or not, but...
Some of it, yeah.
She grew up in Upper Manhattan, and she had a really troubled childhood, and she was always running away. She said that for a long time, she was, like, always asking people to adopt her. And it's like, she had a mother, like, she didn't need to be adopted.
Hey, would you adopt me?
And, like, but then, like...
No? Well, can I have a cigarette?
Yeah, she ended up going to a bunch of different schools, and her mother encouraged her to go to acting school. One of her teachers there told her the name of a casting director who was looking for, like, a streetwise girl, and she apparently just showed up unannounced in this casting director's office with a cigarette, like, smoking.
Well, cigarettes feature very prominently in this movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of just, like... let's just get a couple shots of you, like, smoking. Maybe smoke in the bed a little bit. Maybe, like, share a cigarette. Like, you just, like, putting somebody with a cigarette. It's like, a girl, a gun in a car or whatever. Sorry.
Well, the only other thing I wanted to say about her is she basically stopped making films in the 80s. She didn't make a lot of stuff, although she was in a cult film Out of the Blue.
Yeah. She considered her best role, her best work.
I want to see it.
Better than Days of Heaven.
I want to see it. It's directed by Dennis Hopper and stars him and her. And
yeah.
It sounded cool.
Yeah, I want to see it too.
But yeah, and then she could just kind of stop making films in the 80s. And she said it wasn't like a big dramatic thing. It was just there was a whole bunch of new young actors out there. And I was kind of getting lost in the shuffle. So I laid back and had 3 kids. And now I enjoy staying home and cooking soup.
I like to cook soup. She didn't have an agent too, right? That's the kind of person that's just gonna work so well in certain contexts, but it's like, how much of that can you do? It's like all of her roles are like streetwise kid, right? Like it's not like she ever did a role where she didn't have that accent.
I don't know about the accent, but yeah, I think she always played that character. And I think that she always got her subsequent roles, which weren't that many, from people watching her in Days in Heaven and being like, oh, that's interesting. Let's put her in my thing.
Oh, by the way, Richard Gere does that ventriloquist bit in 2 movies.
You're right. Chicago.
He does a bit
and
where he
then-
pretends that a woman is a ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah, but it's not like he wrote that part in Chicago because of
I know,
the,
like, what if
that was already in the
what if
musical.
what if like that was an improv exercise where he's like, hey, let me show you what I would do if I was cast as Billy Flynn in the musical Chicago, which is gonna come out in a few months or whatever. He obviously didn't do that. Okay, you're looking at me like what? I'm sorry, I'm stupid. But I thought that was a really weird thing.
It was a weird coincidence.
Like, that's an extremely specific thing
Yeah.
that most people don't do. I bet he didn't even remember that he did it in Days of Heaven when he was in Chicago.
I bet nobody's ever thought that he did that.
You think I am?
I
Just like you're the only
person.
person who's recognized that Gregory's Girl train spotting thing. Do you want to do a plug for that right now?
I don't even remember what the connection is, but there's like
a quote or something.
Train Spotting is definitely quoting Gregory's Girl. There's
Right.
like a quote, something
you
about
can't
like a
find
wanger. Yeah, and like I googled it, like, oh, that's a quote from Gregory's Girl, isn't it? And I tried to Google, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I think I'm the only one who's noticed it so far.
It's so fun. When you beaten the internet?
Yeah, I mean, there must have been a bunch of Scottish people who noticed it.
Scottish people have noticed that Gregory has get on the
don't
train
do that.
spotting.
No, he was doing this accent yesterday, and it was
You don't
bad.
like me talking about train spotting?
You know, he's really good at accents usually, I promise.
Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you. You don't want people to think that I'm properly representing myself.
Wait, I want to say there's another coincidence. Do you want to know what it is?
What?
It's having to do with 2 of the actors having strong ties to American history. I read Richard Gere's wiki, and it said that both of his parents were Mayflower descendants. And then later, I read Brooke Adams' wiki, and it said that she is an unverified descendant of Presidents John Adams and John Quincy Adams.
Wow.
Hey.
Both John Adams and John Quincy
I
Adams?
know. But I'm just saying, like, wow.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's a lot of America in those 2. They have ties to history. And this film, so Badlands was a film about the 50s that doesn't announce itself very obviously as a film about the 50s. Like, I think Badlands was very much of that new Hollywood wave, where it's catching that kind of amorality, twistedness, disaffection, new relationship to sexuality and violence and stuff. And Days of Heaven is very consciously trying to do something that's very tied in with trying to capture, I guess, like a different time period, but also is, I think, not quite in step with New Hollywood. I think it's him trying to take a different direction, even though it does have a lot of the same plot elements in some ways as Badlands.
Yeah, I mean, so I do think there are a number of New Hollywood aspects. Natural lighting and settings. They made sure to make costumes out of used fabrics so that they seemed older and more authentic. It's not a happy ending. The story takes back seat. It's very stylized. It's not your typical way of telling stories. The characters are ambiguous. They're neither good nor bad, except for Sam Shepard. He's kind of just good until he goes crazy at the end. It's got, the Bonnie and Clyde-esque thing. But I think the most important thing that makes it New Hollywood is exactly what you're saying makes it not as much New Hollywood. And that's the fact that he's trying to do something different. And in the process of trying to do something different, he is just such an auteur. And that is the heart of New Hollywood, is the auteur.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, this is a movie that's very self-consciously trying to insist upon itself, so to speak. It's like trying to make an argument for why you should let artists spend a lot of money on weirdly authentic trains.
Yeah.
Then get magic hour shots and edit things for 2 years and save their movie with rambling, improvisatory narration. I don't know that it feels amoral in the New Hollywood way.
The amoralness comes from the way that the narration
you're right.
speaks on the actions. Linda is so empathetic towards the farmer, and is also equally empathetic towards her brother, but like equally in the sense that they're treated the same, and she should love her brother more. And so it feels a little cold almost when she's talking about her brother. She's not passing judgment. She points out the reasonable things behind why somebody might commit acts like that.
So like, Linda seems so disaffected, even though she is living life to the fullest, right?
Yeah.
And yet the farmer, I guess because he's dying, but also maybe just because he's rich and he can sort of like look at life in this sort of like more meditative and like piercing way, but like he feels like he's trying to figure out the right thing to do and Linda just doesn't care. And the other ones kind of care to one degree or another, but Linda, who typifies this freedom.
I don't believe it with Linda not caring and being disaffected. Like, that's definitely how she comes across. But there are, like, two parts that really put that into question. And it's her relationship with the other female farmhand. Like, she develops this strong relationship with this other woman who works there. And when the other woman leaves, the woman is saying repeatedly, I love you. And they're hugging and it's not like a weird sexual thing.
No, it's the family of the poor workers who they bonded in this.
Yeah, but it's not just that, because her brother Bill and Abby are part of that too, and it in contrast, that's the first time the word love comes up, and it definitely feels like Bill and Abby and Linda all love each other, or especially like Bill and Abby love each other and then they both love Linda. I don't know if Linda loves either of them.
Yeah.
But like it's not like there's no love there between them, but seeing that tearful goodbye, like you don't see Linda interacting like that with anybody else. And so it just makes you feel like she does have these thoughts. It's just that normally she's not showing them. And then the other part that makes me feel like she's not just disaffected is after the farmer is killed and they're running away, she's suddenly talking about so many morbid things. Like they're floating down the river and she sees people on the shores and she's like, and we didn't know what they were doing. She said something like, they were probably calling for help or burning a body. And then later she says something like, she sees like shadows like men coming after you. And her narration turns so dark and sad. And she's clearly like fucked up from what happened with the farmer. And she knows that her brother did it. Seems to be the implication.
But the final note with her, though, is it does seem so genuinely carefree and hopeful. And it's like, oh, I'm reunited with this girl. It's the same person as earlier.
I don't think so.
Really?
Is this the same person?
I thought so.
I didn't think so.
Well, there's something about her living vicariously through it, too. She's like, maybe she'll meet up with a character or something. What do you think that means? Because that's such an interesting line.
Well, I like
whenever
part
a character
of it,
in a movie says that.
Like, kind of behind that is the idea that, like, maybe she's kind of asexual and she won't.
Yeah. Well, right. So, like, that's the thing is that she's living vicariously through these people's romantic relationships. Because, like, that friend is constantly talking about, like, this drama with a boyfriend who, like, she loves... Yeah, no, it is the same person because she's, like, boy crazy in this way. She keeps falling in love with these guys who treat her bad, but she's like, they're okay, though. You know what I mean? It's the same... I think it's the same one.
You're right. It's the same woman. You're right.
Yeah.
I just didn't recognize her. She looks so much younger in the school setting compared to on the farm.
What do you think that means, man? Okay, well, so now that you know that that's the same character, what do you think that symbolizes?
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, part of it, she's like a little girl, so she can't really go off completely on her own, although Abby said she was on her own at that age. So yeah, she's got to, like, latch on to other people to go along for the ride, and Abby just ditched her, which was so cold-hearted. So,
Not her sister, though.
I know it's not her sister, but, like, when you go through that... Like, you have that bond with this person, and you pretend like it's your sister for a long period of time. Because pretending that Bill is her brother means she has to pretend that Linda is her sister. And Bill leaves for a while, and it's just the two of them living in that house with the farmer. And then going through the experience of Bill getting shot in front of you, Abby should feel a little bit of responsibility to take care of Linda from that point.
But it's like Linda understands, like, oh, Abby's stealing. She's had a hard time.
No, I know Linda understands,
you know,
but...
No, I know. I'm not saying it's right, but, you know. I think that there is something about, like, you know, so, like, these trains, right? Like, it's like Abby gets on this train on the March of War, and Linda and the friend, they go off on this set of railroad tracks, not on the train, but, like, walking on it. So, just think about that, man. So, do you feel this movie's a little empty? Cause, like, yeah, so, like, I'm saying all this stuff, right? But this is kind of me just, like, thinking about it, and like
Right.
trying really hard to come up with
Right.
stuff. And it is there. It's not like I'm manufacturing this out of nothing. Like
Right.
it comes out easily if you think about any aspect of the movie. But of course, Malick is about the experience of it. Like it's about the feeling of the looking at the grasshopper in your hand, or the wheat field, or the leaf shaking to represent sex, or whatever. When I'm watching Badlands, I'm thinking like, oh my god, this is so fucking wild. Look at how crazy this behavior is. Look at this juxtaposition of mood versus action. You know, if I'm watching The Thin Red Line, it's just so beautiful and so moving. If I'm watching Tree of Life, you know, maybe a little bit distancing in kind of this way in some ways, but still a lot more like relating to the characters. Like even Knight of Cups, I feel like I can touch Christian Bale in that movie more than I can touch these characters.
I think Days of Heaven is my least favorite of the Malicks that I've seen. I haven't seen that many. I've seen Badlands, I've seen Tree of Life, and then I've seen part of Thin Red Line, part of New World.
Yeah.
I only like the first 5 minutes, and then I think only part of Song to Song.
I've also only seen
majority.
seen part of that. I think you've seen more of that than
That's
me.
true. Maybe I
fell
even
asleep.
finished.
I think I
honestly
fell
can't
asleep.
remember.
Yeah.
But I want to talk at some point about which is our favorite Malick.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
just to first say where Days of Heaven falls in Malick. I think that this movie is really important for him really just grabbing a hold of his style. Like, obviously, he starts exploring it in Badlands. It's not like he doesn't have his style in
Right.
Badlands, but
There is narration.
But yeah, there's
in a simpler kind
there's
of way.
other things in Badlands.
There's shots of wheat. There's happy African music when somebody's saying something fucked up.
But aside from those very Malicky things, there's also behind it just a good movie.
Yes.
And there's not really that behind Days of Heaven.
No.
And so he has to just really dive into his own style in Days of Heaven. And it's not quite enough, but it's, I think, a really important part of his career. But on its own, I think is boring because it's not Malicky enough to be profoundly meditative and trance-like.
It's a little boring. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too stuck in the real world, which is weird. So Badlands, they're in the real world. They're not in a spiritual dimension.
Right.
They're just crazy people. There's those parts where he's building all those crazy booby traps in the woods, and they're like playing like the and it's like so wild and trippy, but it's amazing. But that's in the real world in this way. This is like very much in the real world. It's like the plastic bag in American Beauty. You know, it's like very much trying to show you that uncanny, evocative nature of life, but it's like a stoned person telling you this and being like, do you get it? And it's like, yeah, I get it.
Okay, do you think Days of Heaven is pretentious? And then do you think Malick in general is pretentious?
Great question. I still think no. No to both. Well, okay, maybe it's weird because it's weird to say this, but I think maybe now Malick might be pretentious now. Post Tree of Life, he might be considered a little pretentious. But it's weird because it's like what he's pretending to is himself. It's like you're pretending to be yourself. You're not effectively evoking the true you-ness.
Yeah.
But how could that be? But yeah.
I mean, I have seen a number of people say online things like, yeah, so many people have been influenced by Malick are just ripping him off and trying to do the Malick thing, and the person who is trying to do the Malick thing the most is Malick himself later in his years.
Yeah. No, that's totally true. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I want to give a quick plug. We recently watched a movie called Sella and the Spades.
It's really good.
2019. Yeah, it's made by director Tyresha Poe. It was amazing. Very stylized. And like in
It's sort of like Malick meets Wes Anderson meets other things. I think there's a Rushmore aspect to it.
Yeah, there's like
or
a
like brick,
Rushmore.
there's a brick, more brick.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Because I think Wes Anderson is not actually cool. It's too cutesy, but like Selling the Spades is cool.
Yes.
But super Malicky.
Yeah.
I don't know that everybody would call it Malicky, but then if somebody points out to you that it is, I think then people would be like, oh yeah.
Malick is one of the easiest director's styles to grab a hold of. He's like kind of like the Tim Burton of serious auteurs.
Yeah. I mean, you see in Selling the Spades, the girls are like wandering through the woods, touching plants. I think their conversation is mismatched over like their actions that they're doing.
The light streaming through the trees, waving in the wind, you know.
You're just seeing them like improvise together.
Exactly.
Super Malick.
And it works.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like a ripoff. It felt like, oh, this director loves Malick films and is not trying to do a Malick thing. Like, she has very much her own style.
He hit upon a great technique. I would say it's a foundational thing.
Yeah.
That is not overused like, say, the sort of Martin Scorsese music cue, super stylized, like, walkthrough of a thing. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
like kind of thing. Like, that's something that's extremely pervasive and seems like a crutch at this point. The Malick thing never really seems like a crutch when somebody...
No, I think it's hard to pull off. And I think it's pulled off very well in Selling the Spade.
I think a dab of Malick never hurts. But trying to do a whole Malick movie...
Yeah.
And I could think of maybe, like, I guess the movie George Washington sort of comes to mind. But I haven't seen that in a long time. It might not be as Malick as I remember. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, Selling the Spades. Great movie.
Yeah, so you should watch it. Check
it out.
But Malick is super influential. We were talking about Malick. Is he pretentious?
Pretentious, yeah. So I don't think Days of Heaven is pretentious. Like, I don't think Days of Heaven is full of a lot of overpromising something that it doesn't deliver. I think that Days of Heaven sets its tone early, sticks with it, doesn't really develop it beyond that.
The parts that I think are pretentious in Days of Heaven is, like, the improvisation where the characters are just, like, interacting with no dialogue or anything. Like the trust fall thing you said.
But it's like he cut that stuff out.
But
like,
there was still a lot of...
No, but it's like he plastered all this narration over it, which, say what you will about the narration being kind of lame, it does work, and it does make the movie.
No, it does definitely work and make the movie, for sure.
So, like...
I don't think the narration's lame.
Well, but the use of the narration... Maybe not lame, you know, again, like, it's like it's a brave choice to be like, I'll get the actor to ramble. I'll get this teenage actor to ramble.
Yeah.
Like, I think Tree of Life is a little bit, probably more pretentious.
I think so, too.
Than this, because of what it's trying to say.
I typically... When I think pretentious, I think it's not pretentious if it works.
But I think Tree of Life's a much better movie than this.
No, same. But, like, I think Malick is a very specific instance where it does work and it's still pretentious.
See, I would say that it works, but the problem with Days of Heaven is that it's boring. Like, it's that it's not good enough.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not Malick enough. Like,
but so then it's not pretentious. Like, it's like I don't think that it's pretending to be better than it is. I think he's kind of like, I was trying to make a great movie, but
I think there are parts though that are pretentious. Like the movie as a whole, no. I think one of the bad things about Days of Heaven is that I just spent way too much...
Shit on Days of Heaven.
Well, it's just... Malick's great.
No, fuck it. Malick's one of my favorites of all time. It feels good to do a little...
Yeah.
I thought that I liked this movie more than I do.
And I'm glad you saw the error of your ways.
Yeah, I saw the golden hour light.
But one of the big issues I found with it while watching it that kept me from really getting into it is the whole time I was just so anxious about the farmer finding them out, and specifically then thinking that they're having an incestuous relationship. Like, it's just so uncomfortable.
The future potential not understanding.
Yeah. And, like, that, like, I know that, like, suspense is such an important part of so many different movies, but I just don't think suspense has a place in Malick, and it takes away from the trance-like quality. And that was just, like, such a weird anxiety.
That's interesting.
Because there are other Malick movies where characters have affairs and stuff, but there's never a suspense with it.
No, it's a weirdly plotty movie. There's, like, plot turns and events. Like, you could make this is like the Malick movie you could make into a musical. You know what I mean? Like, the setup. Like, here's what we're gonna do, and then we should, you know what I mean? Like,
the fact that we were able to describe to you what the plot was automatically makes it very un-Malick-y.
Yeah, exactly. I could never in a million years explain the plot of Night of Cups.
And I have
Tree of Life is about a dad who won't hit you but makes you feel bad with his voice because he cares about you or something.
I have no memory of what Tree of Life is about. I just remember what it felt like to watch
There's a way of nature and a way of grace. Mom always said.
I don't remember. But it was an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite Malick movie.
Yeah, I think Badlands for me, I don't know, Thin Red Line is pretty great. But Badlands, like, I feel like maybe just because of the era that I was in, I knew about Thin Red Line. It always seemed like a really boring movie to me because I didn't like war movies and I didn't know anything about Malick movies. But Badlands, like when I saw it in my big like catching up on movies phase a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, this movie's like as good as Pulp Fiction. Like this is like the best movie that I never heard of. I never heard people talk about Badlands until I started getting seriously into film. So it's hard to say, but I really like Thin Red Line. I think is super rewatchable. I really love it, and I think it's beautiful. Tree of Life obviously is the most Malick. I like Nine of Cups, but my favorite Malick is not The New World.
My favorite movie
Yeah.
is Song to Song.
Really? Yeah. That's why you wanted to ask this question.
Yeah. No, wait, but I just like, but I think it's because, so technically the first Malick movie I've ever seen is Days of Heaven. I saw parts of it on TV when I was younger, and I just remember.
When would this movie be played on TV? Would you watch on TBS?
Yes, I think they played on TBS.
Shut up,
No,
really?
I'm serious. I think they did.
Okay.
And that's just telling you how much this movie does not go Malicky enough.
So you don't gotta edit anything, really, in this movie. Like, what would you? This movie's PG, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
there's incest, but yeah, I mean, there's murder.
Smoking in bed.
But yeah, okay, technically I did see that when I was younger, and I thought it was so boring. Like, so boring. Like, rewatching it, I was like, this is kind of boring. But when I was younger, I just thought it was unbearable, but I think my mom wanted to watch it, and yeah, I hated every second
That's
of
a
it.
cool mom, though, at least. My mom would never want to watch something like that.
We love our moms.
We love our moms.
Moms will probably listen to at least one episode at some point, so maybe.
Maybe yours will.
Your mom will.
Maybe. I don't know.
Anyways. Okay, so I watched Days of Heaven back then, but I didn't remember, and I didn't realize it was a Malick
It'd
film.
be really weird for my mom to listen to this whole thing and hear us like talking about Malick and then like to go and be like, my mom's never heard the name Terrence Malick. She'd be like, I have now.
Anyways, yeah, so, but I'm not going to count that because I didn't realize it was Malick, and I was not at a stage to appreciate Malick, and I just came in the movie halfway through.
Same as me with Thin Red Line when I was a kid.
So really the first Malick movie I've seen, I believe, was Song to Song. I think we were like just scrolling on Netflix and we saw it, and you were like... I'm
pretty sure we saw Badlands before Song to Song.
No, I don't think so. I think Song to Song was the first one, and I just remember being like, this is so strange. And then you fell asleep, and then it was like late at night, and I was just watching Song to Song.
These classic Elena experiences.
I know. So I've had so many profound moments after you fall asleep, and I continue watching.
It makes you like the
movies
movies better, clearly. Since Song to Song is your favorite Malick movie.
Because it's like experiencing something amazing alone.
Right.
You know, because it's like, when, like, we talk to each other during the movies and stuff, and that's amazing and I love it. But if I happen to be in the middle of a profound thought or experience and then you cut in with a thought, it's like, you know, I can't, like, dive in as deep.
You're right. I'm sorry.
I do
I'm sorry. You're
too.
welcome that I fell asleep.
Yeah, you suggested that movie. So it's same with Passing Straight. You suggested these movies. Anyways.
Song to Song is your favorite Malick.
So it's just, like, late at night, I was just connecting with that film so much.
It makes you connect.
Yeah, and so maybe it's just because it was my first actual Malick movie that I've seen, that it was the first time I had an intense experience with a Malick piece of art, and that's why it's my favorite.
I'm never gonna be like, ugh, another Malick movie, like give up. You know what I mean? Like I'll see any kind of thing he ever does.
Yeah.
At some point. I'm not saying like I'll rush to see it immediately.
I mean, there have been Malick movies that have come out since we've been together that we have not seen.
I'm saying, I'm promising you right now, I'm going to see those things at some point. I'm not going to be like, nah, I don't need to see that. I'm sure there's some
Godard that I'm like, I don't need to see that.
Yeah. I mean, well, he's kind of the ultimate example of a person who's got a lot of stuff. You can go your whole life without seeing any Godard short films from like 1980 on. Don't you think you can go your whole life without seeing any Godard films?
And as the majority of people in this earth
certainly
do.
will. Yeah.
Let's talk about wheat.
Wheat. Yeah.
Wheat.
The wheat represents heaven. Right?
It's also like Malick, super influential for the scenes of women walking in the wheat and trailing their hands in it. Yeah. That is used in so many films, most famously in Gladiator.
Yeah.
Which is ripping off that Malick thing. I did see one source that pointed out that the first use of this was in 1962. Ken Russell made a documentary made for TV about Elgar, Portrait of a Composer, that involves him walking in wheat, like trailing his hands in it. But I kind of find it hard to believe that Malick saw that and was like, oh, I gotta do that. I think he came up with that on his own.
Do you think that, like, Malick just did that as a kid a lot? Like, he would just, like, always just run straight to the wheat field and trail his hands through, and then he'd just be like, what do I look like doing this?
He must really love nature. He must look at it all the time. I mean, I am the type of person who likes to trail my hand along something as I walk and think, like, oh, I'm so poetic right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I'm sure the idea of just being a camera operator on a Malick movie, just, like, being part of this team and just, like, okay, like, now we're going out to the forest for a week, and we're gonna get some of that good old magic. We're gonna capture some of that stuff. You know what I'm talking about, people. Let's do it, you know?
You mentioned Nestor Almendros in your opening, right. But we should say, and Wexler, we should say that Almendros and Malick teamed up in the beginning and really worked together on this. They worked together to decide to model it after silent films and using natural light and all that. They drew inspiration from painters and from photo reporters from the start of the 20th century. Almendros, like, would piss the crew off because they would set up lighting and then he'd be like, no, turn that off. And then, like, I think they complained to Malick and Malick was like, yeah, get rid of even actually more of it. So, like, they worked together. Yeah.
They backed each other.
Yeah. So Almendros definitely had an important role. Wait, oh my God. Can you look at Pinch right now? Belly was like down.
Wanted to cuddle him.
Yeah, it was true.
That was so cute.
It was so cute.
You podcast people wish you could see that.
But yeah, Almendros had a very major part in making this movie.
And won an Oscar for it.
He did. Almendros had to leave partway through because
the shooting went on for so long.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, sorry, I got to work on a Truffaut film.
Yeah, he did most of the Romer and Truffaut films, or a lot of them.
And then, yeah, Waxler took over and ended up, like, about half of the footage was from him.
Yeah, he seems like somebody who had this kind of thing happen a lot, where, like, he would be very, like, petty. He said something like he went in with a stopwatch and counted, like, how much footage was in the film that was his, and it was, like, more than half.
Yeah, and so he was upset that Almendros was the one who was credited for it for the Oscar. But yeah. I guess somebody pointed out to him, like, you already have Oscars. And Almendros was involved in setting the tone, and you were just making sure to do it in the same style when you took over. And then he was like, oh, okay, you're right.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It seemed a little bit petty. But at the same time, you know, who am I to say? You know what? But like, it's not like you could distinguish, like, oh my God, that shot of the sunset was so much better than the other ones.
Okay, we mentioned before crew getting upset, but let's talk a little bit more, since this is about Days of Heaven, but it's also about Malick in general. Like, what reactions have been from people who worked with Malick?
Yes, go ahead.
A lot of people found it frustrating.
They have found it annoying.
Yeah. I think I read, and I could be wrong, that Ben Affleck was, like, looking forward to working with Malick because, you know, he's just a great director and stuff like that, and he was expecting to have this
nerd.
Yeah, and he was expected to learn from him, but Malick, he's not, like, there to capture the actor. He's there to capture nature around the actor. Ben Affleck was like, okay, this actually didn't help me at all.
There's, of course, the famous story, which we should reiterate, about Adrian Brody in Thin Red Line, where everybody in the movie considered his character to be the lead of the film based on the script and based on the footage that they shot. And then he took years to edit this film, and Adrian Brody is barely in the movie. There are maybe a dozen or more characters that are featured much more prominently than him in that film. And so that is the kind of thing that seems unfathomable in any other context of any other director. That's just not something you're going to get from somebody else.
Yeah. Richard Gere was frustrated with making the movie.
Well, I'd be frustrated if Richard Gere was in my movie. I don't like Richard Gere.
Yeah. So I like him.
Not a fan.
I like him. I think he's super hot. I think he's suave.
He's super hot.
He's super hot, especially in this movie. He's suave. But yeah, I think Malick wanted... He wanted Pacino,
Yeah,
or
right.
Dustin Hoffman.
Wait, right. So,
And
yeah,
Pacino would be so much better than Hoffman.
Yeah.
Hoffman has the grifter aspect, but he's not attractive enough to hold Abby for so long.
No. You're totally right. Pacino would be so much better than Richard Gere in this.
Richard Gere was frustrated with it because he felt like he had to shoot the whole movie twice. They shot the original shoot in 1976, and then like a year later, Malick called some of them back to do 2 more weeks of shooting, and apparently quite a large amount of the film just came from those last 2 weeks of filming. And so he was like, I had to make this movie twice. He didn't like that.
Well, I see. I would love that, though. Every time I've ever played a role that I've played before, it's always better the second time.
Yeah.
I feel like I would love to get another crack at it every time I could do something.
He was not into it. He said, I have this quote from him.
Maybe not this process.
He said, we shot a much more richly verbal movie with much more high emotions, much more dramatic. And when I came to loop the movie and I saw that it wasn't that, I clearly was not too happy about that because all of us could have saved a lot of brain cells in the process. So I think he felt like he gave a lot that Malick could have used. And it's I'm sure he was hurt that that actual acting he was doing wasn't being used, and then annoyed that
he put a bunch of I got nowhere else to go in there, and Malick's like, no.
Yeah, I wonder if it was Gere that ruined
a little bit
it.
too much. Richard.
Gere is he the reason Malick is who he is because he felt forced to cut the dialogue because of Gere?
He's just watching Richard Gere do a trustful, and he's like, all right, I'm just going to have narration for the rest of my life. It just turns him off of looking at people on screen.
And a number of the crew quit in this and also in Badlands. Everybody thought that they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't trust them.
Which they didn't. It's obviously true that they didn't if it's so dependent on post-production. They are proudly flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it works out pretty good.
It does.
Yeah,
it does. And it makes me feel, I don't know, part of it is anybody who wants to make a movie, just try it.
Oh, happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I love you.
Oh, I love you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail a richly unsentimental work such as Days of Heaven with sweet birthday wishes.
It's so weird, the idea of calling it unsentimental because
it is.
It's just so many moments lingering in them, walking through the fields, brushing their hands. It's that usually evokes the character's thinking about the specific thing in the plot that what they're thinking about. But that's not the case with Malick movies. You don't think as they are interacting with nature that they're thinking about nature. When I watch it, I'm these characters are they're just in nature right now. They themselves are not having these profound thoughts. At least I know that there's narration over top that makes it seem like they are, but I don't know.
Well, this narration is explicitly, as is this case with Badlands, this narration is explicitly looking back from the future.
Right.
As is the case in Tree of Life, too. That's telling a story about my childhood from when I'm an adult. Thin Red Line, it's they're having thoughts in the moment a lot of the time. I think that's the case in a lot of other things. In Knight of Cups, he's just reciting the Pilgrim's Progress or something. I don't even know.
Despite the narration, to me it feels like they suddenly become these mindless beings in the world.
Yeah. No, it's totally true. It's not like these directors where a Kubrick or a Fincher where they're doing take after take after take of the same thing where you're wearing down an actor and you're getting to some kind of kernel of realism within this. It's not caring about realism, doing thing after thing after thing once or maybe twice, getting a surface level reading of it, but having so much coverage. Malick is really the master of coverage, right?
Yeah.
That's his great contribution. This movie is how to fix a movie with coverage and narration and stuff that, right? This. I mean, that's what he can do better than anybody.
Yeah,
could.
There's this quote that after 2 weeks of shooting, Malick was so disappointed with the dailies that he decided to toss the script, go Leo Tolstoy instead of Fyodor Dostoevsky, wide instead of deep, shoot miles of film with the hope of solving the problems in the editing room. And that's what he does. And
that's what occurred. And he solves the problems.
And births a really important film style.
Births a really important film style. That's totally true. Yeah, that's the thing is this movie, it's obviously not as good as Badlands, but it's also kind of as good as Badlands in some ways. It's also is as much of an achievement as anything Malick's done, you know, in a lot of ways. Like it's towering.
Yeah.
It's in the context of him in New Hollywood, you know, he's such an interesting case of just, I mean, it's like Badlands comes out and it's like, that's the festival where Mean Streets premieres, Scorsese's Mean Streets, and everyone's like, wow, Mean Streets is great, but have you seen Badlands? Like, that's even better than that shit. And like, he just had so much juice, like, from this. Like, even this movie, which annoyed a lot of collaborators and wasn't the greatest, certainly wasn't a great commercial success. And
no, it like barely made more. It was a $3 million budget, and I think it made like $3,470,000.
How do you market this movie? It's got nothing. It's got
Sam Shepard.
It's got Sam Shepard. Yeah, you market this movie to Batty Smith.
I just want to say
that's the audience for this movie.
I just want to say, like, Malick had this weird talent for finding actors when they're young and hot and right in their beginning of their career. This was the first feature film for Richard Gere.
Jim Caviezel
that he had a starring role in.
And Thin Red Line is so hot.
And then Sissy Spacek is like...
Sissy Spacek is hot in Badlands.
And then Martin Sheen.
Yes.
Like, you know, how does he... And this is the first, I think, feature film that Shepard's in. Obviously, he didn't discover her as Shepard, but he, like, convinced him to do a movie.
Yeah.
It just seems like everybody who ever meets him is like, I'll do anything you want. Yeah. Literally anything.
Well, of course. I mean, like, he's somebody who effectively built up real mystique based on his life and the work. To not make a movie for 20 years, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then come back and be so unconventional in general, too, and have such a consistent batting average for so long.
We should say that he studied philosophy. I think that's an important part of him, is that he's not really in the film world. Like, he's making movies. But Badlands, I heard that it was like $250,000 budget, which is really small.
Yeah.
And half of it came from people that he just asked for money, like dentists and doctors, like people not in the film industry.
Yeah.
And then he put some of his own money into it too, but he's just like not a film person. Even though he was one of the first people to attend the American Film Institute Academy thing or whatever.
Yeah, along with
David Lynch.
Yeah. And Paul Schrader.
Yeah, Paul Schrader.
Another transcendental filmmaker of a kind, or a recognizer of transcendental film. Because obviously Malick, I guess you could say, has those antecedents of the transcendental filmmakers. But his movies are not as boring as those. Like, his movies are more about transcendence than those movies are.
Can you give some examples?
Ozu and Passion of Joan of Arc, Bresson, like a lot of these movies that have meditative air and that use, in Schrader's description of it, like boredom in some ways. And Malick is not, I think, trying to use boredom. Like, I think the boredom in Days of Heaven is an accident. But he wants to make movies that they're guided meditations. He's trying to give you a little bit of a taste of an ecstatic experience, more than wanting to make a nice piece of art.
Well, but he must think that it's art as he's making it. But I think that he doesn't worry too much about it being polished.
Craft or polished. I think he looks at the reality of world, like, there's evil, there's good and bad, but there's also just, like, everything has a reason, and it's just sort of happening, and the point is...
You want me to
Come on,
solve the secret of Malick and who is trying in his films to tell you the secrets of life? That's what you want me to answer? Like, the point of existence?
Would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been cool.
Well, is that it? Is that the perfect sort of ending of Non?
Yeah, that's a good place to end it.
We've talked on for a while. These truly were the days of heaven.
All right, that's our show. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Check us out on social media. Thank you to The Illuminator for our artwork. And remember, guys, we're a new podcast, so if you could leave a comment or just a like, that would really help us out. Thank you. Bye.